Hello and welcome to day 2 of the Digital Swiss 5, this exciting new departure in professional bike racing featuring the best teams in world cycling. Rowan Dennis of Team Ineos took the win in commanding style yesterday, the world time trial champion, taking the lead early on and going on to win the 26.6 kilometre mountain challenge by 1 minute and 11 seconds from Team Sunweb's Nicholas Roach, with early leader Jimmy Whelan of EF Pro Cycling hanging on for third. It's a different challenge for the riders today, a circuit race around Frauenfeld in the far north of Switzerland in the canton of Thurgau on roads made famous by the Tour de Suisse. 4 laps of an 11.5 kilometre circuit await with a 3 kilometre drag each lap, which will make this a more challenging prospect for the sprinters and time trialists who might have been eyeing this as an opportunity to shine. Well, you can accompany us during the live action on the Ruby AR app to enhance your understanding of the DS5. Here's how it works. To get the best experience out of watching a race on the Ruby platform, download the Ruby AR application to a laptop or smart device and choose the Race tab to find the next Digital Swiss 5 race. It's free to download and free to watch each race. Pick the best video resolution and then select the start list for the event. Scroll through the list to see who's riding and their data. Choose your favourite rider or opt to follow the leader as the race unfolds. The menu offers the order of the riders through the various split points in the race. Select the riders while the race is underway, and the key data will help give you the best possible understanding in the world's most exciting online bike racing. We've got 19 of the world's top squads in action this week, including the AG Tour team of local hero Sylvain Dillier, Bora Hansgrohe featuring Lucas Posselberger, and Olympic champion Greg van Avermaet's CCC squad. Local hero Stefan Kung will fancy his chances with Groupama FDJ, while Sam Bennett also starts, and his declining Quick-Step teammate Michael Morku understands that this will be different to real-world road racing.
Yeah, it's basically most about physical performance, and obviously that will be the big difference between racing on the road, where you need to have a lot of different tactical skills, aerodynamic positions, and being smart in a race. I think before having any experience with competing in a virtual race, I expect it's more about how much power you can push in a certain distance, and it's going to be just a test of who is the strongest guy, really.
Davide CIMOLAI can finish fast for Israel's startup nation, while Swiss veteran Michael Albacini is heading towards retirement via DS5 racing with Mitchelton Scott. Movistar bring British neophyte Gabe Scullig in for day 2, and Tour de France stage winner Edvald Boasson-Hagen has the power to frighten many with NTT Pro Cycling. Filippo Ganna and Mike Tunnison will surely feature for Team Ineos and Team Jumbo-Visma respectively, while Team Sunweb's Michael Matthews always enjoys Swiss roads. Denmark's Mads Pedersen of Trek Segafredo starts today, and the World Road Race champion is delighted with the extra motivation the series generates.
We still talk a lot together, and the morale is really good, actually. We all know it's a difficult situation, and we have to think new and keep motivation in another way, but the team is really good at it, and we are really supporting each other. So the team is still doing good, and we are ready whenever we can race again on the road, but right now we are ready to race on any platform.
Finally, the Swiss national squad has co-opted Mickey Scher, who raced yesterday in the colours of CCC, for this second day of racing in the Digital Swiss 5. Just under a minute to go to the start of day 2 of the Digital Swiss 5. That's what we're facing. It's the circuit race in Frauenfeld. Second of 5 days of racing. Just time to bring in the man that's accompanying me once more, Alex Dowsett, former world hour record holder. And Alex, I suspect this might have been the kind of race you might have enjoyed. It's a course that would suit your talents.
Yeah. Of the 5 stages, I think this would be the one that I'd pick out and put my hand up for if I had the choice.
What did you make of yesterday's race? A powerhouse performance from Rowan Dennis and a great introduction to DS5 racing.
Yeah, Rowan really paced himself, which is exactly what we'd see. He let a few riders get away from him in the first quarter, and then just obviously settled into that rhythm and put out a very high pace for the duration and took home the win convincingly.
And we're all go here, and it looked like one rider was left at the start line, maybe even two, and one of them was an AG Tour Le Mondial rider. See a Bahrain McLaren rider as well is struggling a little bit to get away, and getting a good start here is half the battle in DS5. Racing is up front. We're seeing the likes of Rick Zabel, a late stand-in for Alex Catapult at the Israel Startup Nation squad. Scrolling up a little bit further up, and we're seeing the names, the big names indeed, the big powerhouse riders. Greg Van Avermaet, not too far from the front in the early stages. Michael Matthews, stage winner in Tour de Suisse in the past, knows that a good start is such an important thing. Sylvain Dillier is well up as well, and he, of course, second in Paris-Roubaix in 2018, is a man who can really generate huge one. Good to see Chris Lawless up there, the British rider with Team Ineos. He's got one of the pre-race favourites, Filippo Ganna, among the riders on the start line today. Michael Albertini, we're seeing him in studio, and he's also a man who's planning to retire in June. Well, it doesn't look as if Michael Albertini is going to get quite the retirement that he expected, but he always brings his A game to any style of racing you've got in Switzerland. He's a multi-stage winner in Tour de Suisse and indeed in Tour of Romandy in the past. And Michael Albertini is he's got to thrash away and get those, you would imagine, tired 39-year-old legs and try and ease them into the battle as quickly as he possibly can. The early stages, I can tell you, Benjamin Thomas is at the front for Groupama FDJ. Greg Van Avermaet, 20 metres behind the Olympic champion, making a pretty good start for CCC team. Stefan Kung as well is surely a rider to watch. He's Swiss with the Groupama FDJ squad. He's a stage winner in Tour de Suisse in the past, both in the individual time trial and indeed in a team time trial for BMC a couple of years ago here in Frauenfeld. Stefan Kung knows as well, and indeed he's moved up and into second position just behind Benjamin Thomas, who's made a rocket-like getaway. So the Groupama FDJ squad have got the hang of this one early, Alex.
Yeah, Benjamin Thomas really went out the blocks like lightning, and yeah, things will start settling in now. We're 2.5 minutes in, so everyone will definitely be starting to feel their legs, feel that initial effort, and I think by the 4th and 5th minute we'll start seeing where the riders will be sitting in terms of power and in terms of their watts per kilo for hopefully for the rest of the race. But some may fade and some may surge back. It's, pacing for this is super important, but as it's so new, as the platform is so new, and I can't imagine. I mean, the guys have had some opportunity to ride on the course, but possibly not to pitch themselves against riders of a sort of similar caliber to themselves. So it's how best to pace yourself to get the most out of this race, really.
Yeah, everybody's learning, everybody's trying to get the hang of it as quickly as possible, and at the moment the man who appears to have got the hang of it better than most, a virtual 54 kilometers an hour for Stefan Kung, the Swiss favourite. The Groupama FDJ squad an advantage of around about 25 metres over Greg Van Avermaet. Michael Matthews sitting in third place. Sylvain Dillier making it, two Swiss riders in the top four. The AG Tour Le Mondial rider, said as a Paris-Roubaix stars, gets across the cobbles, the smooth virtual roads of Frauenfeld, proving equally an ideal platform and an ideal place for him to show his ability. Benjamin Thomas, after his great start, has slipped back to 5th place. Filippo Ganna laying himself in nicely in 6th place in the early running. Mitch Docker, Remy Cavagna, Claudio Imhoff, the track man, in 9th place at the moment. Nico Denz, the German rider with Team Sunweb, sitting in 10th. Stefan Kung out front has decided to mark himself out as something of a stalking horse. He's really gone for gold and gone out early here. It's worth talking a little bit about the course. 11.5 kilometers, and it's 4 laps of this circuit here in Frauenfeld, in the north part of Switzerland. Greg Van Avermaet is another man who's really he's coming off a bit of a knee injury, actually. It's Greg, but he's to nurse those tired knees, 34-year-old knees into action and not really show any ill effects of that little mountain bike niggling little knee injury that he picked up recently. Michael Matthews decided to go outside to try and get a little bit of a blow on, get some wind in the sails, so to speak. And Michael Matthews second at the moment, 50 meters behind Stefan Kung. What a start from Kung! He's really gone for it.
Yeah, this will be quite a pace to try and hold for the whole thing, and I'd be interested to see how he decides to pace himself across all the undulations here. He's just about to start a descent, and it'll be, it's whether he backs off the power here to just use the speed, and then will once he's got, take that recovery so that he can hold this intensity for as long as possible. But it does look like he's letting off a little bit, but not much. He's definitely keeping that momentum on, so he's fairly confident of his numbers and holding them to the finish. Of course, aerodynamics doesn't feature here, and Stefan he's a big guy, but he can really tuck himself away, and you can see on the online images in the middle picture being Stefan, he's on the drops, which I guess is a comfort thing because it's completely unnecessary in terms of aero, so that must be for Stefan where he feels like he can develop the most power. I mean, I would want, if I was racing, I'd actually want to set clip-on tri-bars on just to rest my upper body, but I don't know if those are the rules. Are we allowed clip-on tri-bars for this, Declan?
Oh, I think you can go full praying mantis in online racing these days. It hasn't been defined yet. You can be sure someone's thinking up rules as we watch these. We're in the early days, the dawn of the sport, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see all sorts of contraptions appear in the next few years to fully take account of the morphology that's available and allowed. That's Stefan Kung, though, that whatever, regardless of where he's putting his hands, very, very effective stuff. Greg Van Avermaet now 64 meters behind. Big names starting to gravitate towards the front. Filippo Ganna moves up to within 137 meters of the lead, and far from a tardy getaway by the Team Ineos rider, but he's certainly the rider that's making inroads. He's moved ahead of Sylvain Dillier, ahead of Remy Cavagna, and now up into fourth position. The next target for him, Greg Van Avermaet, who's 70-odd meters up the road. As we pick up the images of the first three riders there, it looks like Van Avermaet just overhauling Michael Matthews. So nice little scrap between the two of them, and we have the images of them in their individual home trainer bends, man caves, call it what you will. Matthews is desperately trying to fend off the attack from Greg Van Avermaet.
You can see Matthews getting out the saddle here. It's we're possibly looking at an hour's worth of racing here to go. So easing that, easing sort of your back out, easing your pelvis, your hips, just to make sure you can sustain the power. We see all the riders here. It looks like there's been a bit of a glitch for Ian Stannard at the start line. So he was definitely one to watch for today, but doesn't look like we're going to be seeing much of him. It's my teammate Davide CIMOLAI there, who's a sprinter, but again, although this is on paper a sprinter stage, with the Ruby platform doesn't feature any drafting, so this is more of a threshold effort than there's definitely no sitting in, waiting, and then sprinting at the end. This is just an all-out threshold effort all the way to the end. So the likes of Sam Bennett probably are not going to be licking their lips as much as they would do normally for a day like this.
Oh, well, Sam Bennett is sitting in the virtual non-slipstream of Michael Morku at the moment, but unfortunately for them, that's 46th and 45th positions respectively. Bennett, the sprinter, who's on his home trainer. I know we saw him on screen there a few moments ago from Carrick-on-Suir in Tipperary. Meanwhile, Greg Van Avermaet's in Belgium, where they can train outdoors these days. No restrictions in that respect. But Van Avermaet has gone indoors, set up the trainer, and he's nicely branded up, isn't he, with the team colours behind him. He's going to put the bottle in a strategic position. Nice little camera scenario. But Ian Stannard, we saw his camera had locked, and he's back in 49th position. I wonder if his internet didn't drop momentarily, the Team Ineos man. He will, though, be, I think, somewhat relieved and delighted to hear that his teammate, Filippo Ganna, is in a pretty impressive fourth place at the moment, albeit Ganna, in turn, has actually slipped a little bit further behind. He's now 165 meters behind Stefan Kung. We pick up the images from the Team Ineos rider, and Ganna still sitting and settling in fourth position. Greg Van Avermaet in third. Greg Van Avermaet now, well, 20-odd meters behind Michael Matthews.
Ganna's jersey there clearly got a fan. That's wise from him. A lot of the riders say that one of the big differences between indoor training versus outdoors is your heat retention. So not being able to cool your body down, and obviously the wind plays a big factor in taking that heat away from your skin and keeping your body temperature regulated. The higher your temperature gets, the more your power is going to drop. So to have a big fan on the go to just shift the air around you, that's an advantage. I have a lot of people telling me on online racing that it can be worth up to 20 watts. So that's normally one of the excuses I've got in the locker because I don't have a fan.
Well, funny enough, I think a lot of the experienced and very enthusiastic online bike riders would have more than one fan. They'd want one blowing into their face and another one to blow onto their body, and it's meant I don't think you can have too many of them. Sylvain Dillier is looking at the screen, looking at the data, getting that sinking feeling a little bit. Great start from him, but he's slipping back the oar out of his travel, suggesting that the gradient is tripping ever so slightly for him. The man sitting back in 13th position. Indeed, he's fading somewhat back into 15th, and remember, he was in the top 3 or 4 through the first couple of kilometers, so we're going a little bit backwards for the former Swiss champion. Meanwhile, his fellow countryman Stefan Kung of Groupama FDJ is hanging on to this lead, albeit it's starting to come down a little bit. Michael Matthews now 115 meters behind Stefan Kung. Greg Van Avermaet is slipping a little bit further back from Michael Matthews, about 30 meters between the two, but he's within 145 meters of the lead. But it looks like Filippo Ganna very shortly could be about to overhaul Greg Van Avermaet and move up into third. A lot of people's pre-event favourite is Filippo Ganna. Indeed, he's on a bit of a flyer at the moment. 5.5 watts per kilo doesn't sound that impressive when you see Stefan Kung putting out 6.8 watts per kilo, but it's huge numbers indeed for Filippo Ganna. He's one of the biggest guys out there. Biggest guy indeed. Go ahead. Stefan Kung is in the lead of the race, and he's going very well indeed with a 129-meter advantage. One man that isn't competing today is Robert Hessink. He was a great 20th place yesterday. We caught up with him before the start of today's race. Let's hear from him now. I first of all asked him just how he got on yesterday.
It's something, we're not really used to. It's like a time trial, but more difficult because you're indoors. You can't really lose your heat, so you get overheated quite quickly. So it was something completely new, but I think the reactions were good, so people had fun watching.
Well, you had a great 20th place finish, considering that you're at something of a disadvantage. You're at altitude. Can you explain that for us?
Yeah, I live here in Andorra at 1,800 meters. So we bought the house with the idea to do altitude training camp here, which works out fine. But for racing, it's not really good. And there's just less oxygen in the air if you go higher. So almost 10% less on your threshold. So yesterday was a race full gas. So you're in a bit of a disadvantage, but. It's still, it was fun, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. Tell us, what messages will you have for your teammates starting today, day 2, and indeed the other days to come?
Well, obviously we have a lot of talks going on in the team, because also for us, as I said, this is completely new. The WhatsApp groups are Everybody is trying to give the best advice for the next couple of days. I think today it's more flat, right? So that's I think easier. I think that racing becomes really hard if it goes uphill, and especially when it gets real steep. Then it's really difficult to to maintain your rhythm, I guess, riding. So for those boys, well, be prepared for. Actually, it's more or less like a time trial. You just have to don't use all your energy in the first part. We saw Sepp Kuss, my teammate, yesterday. He was really good up the hill. I think almost top 10, but afterwards he was done. So it's an hour. It's quite long.
And how useful is this event for motivation, for keeping morale up for yourself and indeed for your teammates?
Well, yeah, I think it's a good signal to the fans, to our teams, that we stay really motivated and we're ready to race again once the crisis is over. And at this moment, there's just different things in the world that are more important than bike racing. And this is a way where we can follow the rules, make sure that people stay healthy and we stay at home, and still we can make some entertainment. So it's a good way to stay going. I'll keep going, and but I think everybody is looking forward to race on the beautiful roads again.
Well, great to hear from Robert Hessink, who's at altitude in Andorra, not too far from Alex Dowsett, and the best of his teammates back in 39th position at the moment. It's not a great hit out at the moment for Team Jumbo-Visma, but great to hear from Robert Hessink. Meanwhile, as Robert had mentioned, it's a day for the time trialists, really. Stefan Kung is in a fine first place with 227 metres advantage over Michael Matthews. But look at this, Filippo Ganna is on a little bit of a charge. He's within just a few metres now of overhauling the second place man, Michael Matthews. He's got ahead of Greg Van Avermaet, and he's the man making moves. Having said that, he's not really getting any closer. If anything, he's dropping further away from Stefan Kung. But Filippo Ganna set fair now to move up and into second position very soon. Greg Van Avermaet hanging on grimly in fourth place, the veteran Belgian rider. Matteo Del Sen, great effort from the rally cycling rider. Remy Cavagna, the French national time trial champion, sitting in sixth. Vicky Scher, his second day of racing. He's the only rider riding today that raced yesterday. This time, of course, he's in the colours of the Swiss national squad. It raced with CCC yesterday as Ganna moves up and ahead of Michael Matthews and into second position. Is he going to negative split it and save his big effort for the second half of this course, Alex?
Yeah, quite possibly. I was just watching this battle between Matthews and Ganna. It'll be quite interesting. And they can't work together because of the lack of drafting, but they can certainly urge each other on, and there will be an element of having them, having that carrot in sight. And Matthews, Ganna's a very good solo rider. Matthews can time trial exceptionally well as well, but you'd say he's more of a racer, and for sure he's not going to let Ganna out of his sights without a fight. So even though there is no drafting, you could just see these two urging each other on and providing some sort of motivation to each other to try and catch Kung up the front, because Kung's a phenomenal time trialist. You don't want to give him too much of a gap, and so far he's setting the pace here and showing no signs of slowing down just yet. We're a third of the way through the race, and that's a fair old gap Kung has, and he's on the downhill now, so that gap in terms of physical distance is going to open up, whilst the Matthews group is still on top of the hill. But he's definitely eked out a bit more of an advantage in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, that concertina effect from descent followed by ascent means things should stabilize. But at the moment it's showing an over 300 meters advantage for Stefan Kung. He's absolutely flying, a virtual 58 kilometers an hour, and that is his time trial pace. Things bunching up a little bit behind him with Ganna, Van Avermaet and Matthews all running together. No draft effect, but as you said, you've got that mutual motivation effect that could well help them to draw a little bit closer to Stefan Kung, and perhaps even draw them further clear of the pro-continental rider, the Division 2 rider, Matteo Dalsin. A superb performance from a rider looking to make a name for himself. For rally cycling, the US-based squad, US-Canada collaboration, and Mickey Scher, well, this is altogether more to his liking, isn't it? It was a good effort from Scher yesterday. He was in the top 10 for much of the day, finished 12th, I do believe, and Scher has got the hang of this racing and perhaps benefiting from having had a hit out yesterday.
Yeah, and yesterday Mickey Scher was in the Swiss studio under the studio lighting. I can't imagine it would have been especially cool for him in there. He did have a fan, but even so, it's 30 degree or 25 to 30 degrees inside versus Michael Matthews sitting in the shade outside. That's going to be a significant difference.
And in the shade this time, and in the studio is, of course, we saw Michael Albacini, and we've got some word indeed from Michael Albacini, who's told us that he's just went out a bit hard, actually went out harder than a harder pace than he was able to maintain, and he's paying the price for that, starting to slip down the order. I'll see if I can pick out exactly where the veteran Swiss rider is, but suffice to say, he's back in 36th position at the moment. He's over 2 kilometers down, and he's struggling along 4 watts per kilogram, which would suggest he's desperately trying to recover while considering to put out big watts. So not an easy thing to do. Stefan Kung has settled into a fairly painful and extremely impressive 5.7, 5.8 watts per kilogram. Similar sort of numbers being put out by Filippo Ganna, so things have settled down a little bit, and Greg Van Avermaet just within a couple of meters of his Italian rival. Ganna, of course, multi-world pursuit champion. He's an amazing performer in track cycling, a blue ribbon event indeed of track cycling, the individual pursuit. He really is the king, but the king, and the king of Switzerland indeed in many ways, is Stefan Kung, a time trial winner in the individual time trial a couple of years ago. He was also in the part of the combination of the team time trial selection for the BMC squad on that occasion, which won the team time trial, and indeed he was the first of their riders across the line, took the yellow jersey, held it for several days, handed it over to his teammate Richie Porte, and Porte went on to win the Tour de Suisse, and Kung wrapped up a great week for the BMC squad by taking the individual time trial success. So he's always brings his A game to any event that is happening on home soil. He is, of course, on home soil in every sense. And Stefan Kung's doing a superb job at the moment. His advantage still steady. It's holding steady at 300 meters. And this is the interesting moment, isn't it? Because that gap has clearly stabilized. Does Filippo Ganna have somewhere else to go? Is he going to be able to mount a late charge? And indeed, we talk about late, but there's still a long, long way to go. Just over 19 kilometers of the 45 kilometers have been completed.
Ganna, I mean, Stefan Kung and Filippo Ganna should both know how to pace a solo effort. But the art of pacing, I think they've both been world individual pursuit champions as well, if I'm not mistaken, both Stefan and Filippo.
Yeah, both trackmen of some great ability and long-standing. Kung is a man that we're all familiar with. Filippo Ganna was third in the World Time Trial Championships last year in Yorkshire. And of course, Stefan Kung was third in the Road Race World Championships in Yorkshire just a few days after that. Kung on that occasion was 10th in the World Time Trial Championships, and you had a pretty good hit out yourself that day indeed, Alex. And would you have fancied to go against these guys today? They're suffering out there, aren't they? And Michael Matthews is he's made a big effort. He's continuing to make a great effort, and he's now ahead of Greg Van Avermaet running in third place.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to talk about actually the platform and comparing this race to a real world race. And obviously, I think yesterday you could draw some comparisons in that as soon as the road goes uphill, watts per kilo is the deciding factor on how fast someone is. On the flat, it's a different story, and it's, I think, much harder to implement into an online platform to determine someone's speed on the flat. And Ganna and Kung, they're both just they're both pure powerhouses. They knock out some extraordinary figures, but coupled with that is their size and their weight. They're they're both just big guys. So they, in contrast, if someone like Evenepoel can be competitive with the likes of Ganna and Kuhn in a time trial, yet on it could be anything as up to 100 watts or 80 to 100 watts less. And so, I think the online. So we're seeing a fair representation here of what's of power. Van Avermaet can knock out huge numbers. Michael Matthews as well. We're seeing some powerhouses here lighting up the front of the field. And this form of racing is much closer to real world cycling than, say, FIFA is to professional football. But I think you shouldn't try and compare them. You shouldn't try and say, if we were to run this stage in real life, for sure Stefan Kung's not going to ride away from the word go, and it's going to be a threshold thrash, a threshold test between everyone. There's obviously this cornering, there's tactics, there's aerodynamics all coming into play, but that's then not to discredit what everyone in the field right now is doing. It's using the AR app, you can see a rider and you can see the numbers, and they're phenomenal. These are world tour level numbers being churned out by some of the best riders in the world. And it's a very different kind of race. These guys are in their gardens, in their garages, in their front rooms, and although they can see other riders up the road, it's also a battle against themselves. It's just a pure fight riding on that lactate threshold. You could see the on-screen image of Stefan here, just in an absolute world of his own. Probably looking at the number trickling up and down to Ganna behind him, and it's quite a mental test.
Mental test indeed, and you're a man who loves time trials, and you're part of a unique breed, a very small dwindling breed, I think, in the world of cycling. And I mean, what is his mentality at the moment? Are his senses shutting down? Is he able to take on board the sort of numbers required? He just dips over 7 watts per kilo, really piling it on at the moment. 362 meters his advantage over Filippo Ganna. Both of these riders, indeed all of these riders, are in just an absolute world of hurt at the moment.
Yeah, it doesn't get. I'd say compare this to trying to hang on to the peloton up a climb, perhaps, in terms of how tough this is. This is a time trial. I would struggle to compare this to a time trial as well, because it seems just about trying to sit on as high a power as possible for the duration, whereas the way I time trial, I break it up into chunks and different powers for different sections. So this takes, I'd say, well, when it comes to cycling and mental strength, this has got to be up there alongside a ramp test. A ramp test is where the resistance gets harder the longer you go, and you just keep going until you can't pedal anymore, which I never understood the relevance of. I mean, obviously you're collecting data, but ultimately there's no race or situation on earth where the harder you go, the longer it's going to take and the harder it's going to get. I like to have a finish line, and at least the boys have this.
Yes, there's nothing worse than a test to failure, and everybody fails in a ramp test, just at different numbers, don't they? But as you say, there is a finish line here. 45 kilometers is the destination for Stefan Kung. We've still got 21 and a bit kilometers to do, so still a long way to go yet for the race leader. 385 meters his advantage. It's still going in the right direction for him, ahead of Filippo Ganna. And what a great little private scrap we've got between Michael Matthews and Greg Van Avermaet. Matthews is the man holding the advantage in the red colours of Team Sunweb at the moment. The orange CCC colours of the Olympic road race champion. He's going to extend his reign in that the gold shoes, the gold helmet, the gold handlebar tape, the gold everything you can get, gold medallions or whatever for Greg Van Avermaet through into 2021. and he's not thinking about that right now. The only thing he can focus on is trying to get on terms with Michael Matthews. That final podium position is so important, and it's great to get that picture-in-picture, isn't it, and get a sense of the real way they're having to thrash those pedals around. It's a very high cadence effort from Greg Van Avermaet, the 34-year-old Belgian rider.
I think Greg versus Michael as well. This will be a personal battle. Not in terms of, I'm sure they get along just fine, but they're quite similar bike riders. They're punchy. They can get over climbs. They can win from many different scenarios. They've both won some huge races, so this is going to start becoming a little bit personal. So, whilst Ganna's up there chasing Stefan, and I think Michael and Greg are going to be having their own fight, I think.
Just got a brief image of Michael Albacini in studio with our colleagues in Switzerland who are presenting these images to us. And the Swiss favourite, 39 years young, is now 3 kilometres down in 38th position. Going to have a look at the back of the field. Still 53 riders competing in this event. Brian Van Goodem from Lotto Soudal is the man who's struggling a bit, showing it 0.0 watts per kilogram, which would suggest that he has had an electronical and he's no longer involved in the competition. So 53 of the 57 showing on screen. 52 we believe still pushing on. Tom Scully hitting a little bit of a Wi-Fi glitch as well, it would be suggested, but up front 7.6, make that 8.1, 8.9 watts per kilogram by Stefan Kung. And look at the pain etched on the face of Michael Albacini. 5 times a stage winner in the Tour of Romandy, and several stage wins indeed in Tour de Suisse over the years. The Mitchelton Scott veteran, 7 stage wins in Tour of Romandy, 3 in Tour de Suisse, and planning to retire on 14th of June. I'd say he's planning to retire within the next half an hour, the way things are looking at the moment for Albacini, a great professional rider.
I think looks of things Albacini will be praying for an electronical. I like that. It's like mechanical online racing.
Stefan Kung, the worst thing could possibly happen to him right now. It's different attitudes. 427
I feel like
meters.
there's a few riders in there praying for an electronic. We should talk about equipment a little bit, what these guys are using and what they should be, what the marginal gains in online racing. How can you maximise the power you're putting through the pedals, appearing on that on-screen power? And this is something I've had a little look into. I think yesterday we spoke about what power meter to use, and when you look at drivetrain loss, there's possibly so when you press down on the pedal, there's at each point of contact there's a loss of power by the time it reaches the rear wheel, or in this case the turbo trainer. So every time that power is transferred from your foot to your shoe, to your pedal, to the crank, to the chain, to the cassette, to the turbo trainer, there's a loss, and that can be, I think, on average a 10 watt loss by the time the power gets to the drivetrain. So on that basis, if the riders are using, so the smart trainers often come with, the smart trainers will always come with a power meter built into them. Now what I don't know is if that power meter takes into account the loss, so the difference between, say, a crank-based power meter, like at Israel Dart Nation we use 4-eye cranks, and you'd think if you're just measuring the absolute raw power, there's going to be more power developed at the crank than there is developed in the turbo trainer. So it would make sense on this platform to connect your crank-based power meter to the Groovy platform rather than your turbo trainer-based power meter. Now, I spoke with James Whelan after yesterday's race, and he said he measured his output twice, once on his turbo trainer and again on his cranks, and there was just a 1 watt difference, which goes to show that either there's a discrepancy between one or the other, and I wouldn't like to say or comment which way that would be. I think it's fairly well known that power meters all will read ever so slightly different. And all you want as a rider is a power meter that reads the same tomorrow as it did yesterday. Ultimately it's a number, and if you're using it for your own training, as long as that number is sort of stays consistent, then you can have accurate training. But for these guys, obviously they're racing against each other. Now, if it was what I would want to be doing if I was racing and I had to use the turbo trainer based power meter, is look at my drivetrain efficiency. So running a new chain, ceramic bearings, I would new pedals, making sure my cleats are sort of still in good nick, and a wax chain as well, just to maximise that every watt that you're pushing through the pedals is actually being recorded in electronic form. I think they're the only variables that we have in this platform. So we're not sure here watching. I'm seeing the same footage as you guys. I couldn't tell you who's using what power meters, but I think by the sounds of things, with what James has said, we're looking at a very accurate representation of what the riders are doing.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating analysis, and it would appear indeed from that bit of information from James Whelan that if there's just a 1 watt difference between the power meter and the measurement taken from the trainer, that the boffins at Ruvi have clearly created an algorithm that takes account of perhaps of that drivetrain loss. It all seems to be working well. It's working well at the moment for Greg Van Avermaet and Michael Matthews. They've decided to go for a little side-by-side group ride, isn't it? It's nip and tuck between the two. They're absolutely flying. Stefan Kung is, well, he's out in front now by 482 metres. Great advantage over Filippo Ganna. Michael Matthews and Greg Van Avermaet locked in combat, never more than a couple of metres between them. And this is a superb effort indeed, and a great private battle for the final podium position. It's not by any means certain that Stefan Kung is going to hold on at this stage. 505 metres the gap between himself and Felipe Ganna, but Greg Van Avermaet and Michael Matthews a further, 200 metres, 230 metres in arrears from the second place man, Filippo Ganna, as we pick up the numbers. Quick shout out, I think, for Matteo Dalsin. He's in fine form, isn't he, the Canadian rider? Disregard that flag, he is actually Canadian with the rally cycling squad. He's a road race champion of Canada, a man from Ottawa, running in 5th place at the moment, and they're putting out 5 and a bit watts per kilogram. Translates to a virtual speed of around about 45 kilometers an hour, albeit he's sitting 1.5 kilometers behind the race leader, Stefan Kung. He's holding off Rasmus Tiller of NTT Pro Cycling. Stephen Bassett, the other rally cycling rider, in the top 8. They've clearly got their equipment working well. They're sitting in 8th. He's sitting in 8th place at the moment. Kamil Gradek was a late call up to the CCC squad, running in 9th. Mitch Docker, the veteran Aussie with EF Education First, is in 10th place at the moment. Max Walscheid, about whom we had a little bit of a chat before the broadcast today, the big German powerhouse sprinter, is going well in 11th place at the moment for NTT Pro Cycling. And Patrick Gamper from Bora Hansgrohe sitting back in 12th as things currently stand. Let's have a little scroll down and see what the position of some of the big names. Zukowski, Van Heck, Vermeersch, Claudio Imhoff, the trackman, started well. He's dropped away. Benjamin Thomas was fastest of all through the first split today, but he's slipped back to 17th position, and he's handed it over to Stefan Kung, his Groupama FDJ teammate, to take it on at the front. Edvald Bosenhagen, about whom much was expected this year. Well, he's back in 18th place at the moment for NTT Pro Cycling. Jan Tratnik is a former Slovenian national time trial champion, in 19th position at the moment. He's slipping back. Lucas Posselberger, former Giro d'Italia stage winner, back in 21st. Remy Cavagna, going well early on. He's back into 23rd as things currently stand. Sylvain Dillier as well, back in 28th at the moment. We picked some images of him a little while ago, and Dillier was his tongue sticking out. I think his early time up front was short-lived, to say the least, and he's feeling the effects of that huge effort. But these two riders have have ridden consistently, and it is remarkable the way they're managing to keep their avatars side by side. Are they doing this on purpose at this moment? I don't think so, but it's because it's quite the scrap between the two. Filippo Ganna sitting now at a remove of just over, let me just get a quick look at it, 500 metres. It's holding steady at the moment, the gap to Stefan Kung up front. Michael Matthews sitting in third place. Problem for Craig Van Avermaet, putting the foot down. That wasn't him just thinking, I'll take a bit of a rest. We pick up his camera and he continues to ride absolutely flat out, but just momentarily his avatar stopping, and I think that could be a little bit of Wi-Fi breakup. It's perhaps inevitable that that can happen. It amounts to something a little bit like a puncture, but it hasn't delayed him. He put a huge surge in there and managed to recover from that issue, get straight up and ahead of Michael Matthews once more. What a battle between the two. Dalsin still sitting in 5th place at the moment. Rasmus Tiller in 6th. Mickey Scher, great effort from him, the big Swiss rider. Been with the same team for quite a while. It's now known as CCC, formerly known as BMC. And Mickey Scher, who did a couple of years with Astana earlier on in his career, but has spent much of his career on this Swiss-based squad, American registered. And now Van Avermaet starting to step up. Van Avermaet, Mickey Scher's trade teammate, albeit Scher's racing with the Swiss national squad today. Van Avermaet moving clear of Michael Matthews in that battle for 3rd. Filippo Ganna in 2nd position now, but up the road and clear of the rest. Absolutely flying is the 26-year-old Swiss from Wil in northern Switzerland, Stefan Kung, 3 times a stage winner in Tour of Romandy. European champion. Former European Championship Under-23 road race winner as well. 3rd in the World Championship road race we mentioned on the wet roads of Yorkshire back last September. Well, it's dry roads that are presented for the riders today. It's dry in his shed. And Stefan Kung looks like he's got a visitor. And Alex, it's looking good at the moment for Kung. He's hanging on, and if anything, he's starting to extend his advantage once more over Ganna.
I think Stefan's really settled into his stride here, showing no. The pace isn't quite as high as it was early on, but that's for the whole top 10 now. We're seeing less 6s and more 4s and 5s than we were earlier. Matthews and Van Avermaet have separated just a little bit, but I'm sure Matthews will be wanting to put that right very quickly. If I was Michael and Greg, with the gap that they've got to 4th place, I'd be sending in the other one a little WhatsApp message saying, should we just knock this back a little bit, just make life a little bit easier for ourselves. We've got 3rd place here. It's going to be real tough to catch Ganna, and we could just battle it out that we are for 3rd position here in a sprint rather than a sort of threshold test to the end.
Well, they've got the cameras. I wonder if one of them saw the other WhatsApping, then suddenly you'd probably see an attacker. Who knows? Like attacking in the feed station.
Possibly, yeah. So I had an interesting chat earlier with. Sorry, Dick. I had an interesting chat earlier with the owner of Bob Chatellas from Vactor about now that we're seeing more and more online racing, actually what bike is best for online racing? And we see a lot of brands, ourselves included, that have a climbing bike and an aero bike. With one of those big. He said not so much, but if you could get a steel bike, so steel tubing, something that is what's going to get a bit of an edge. You don't need a lightweight bike for this. You just need something as rigid and as rigid as possible, basically. So for road bikes, for the road, you look for a little bit of flex for comfort, but none of that's needed on here. So actually, a bike that is as stiff as it possibly can be is what you're after. We might see a resurgence of steel frame bikes specifically for indoor racing.
Well, that'll be fascinating, and I'm always up for anything that's going back to steel tubing, although I don't think I'd risk my old Ross and Columbus SL on the direct drive trainer just yet. Having said that, Stefan Kung's bike seems to move around quite a bit on the trainer. I wonder if it's not one of those ones that just has a little bit of give in, a little bit of flex, allows the rider to move around, allows him to sort of throw the bike around, and just makes things ever so slightly less intense. Looks pretty intense at the moment for Sam Bennett, the Corning Quick Step rider. Not really in his element here. He's had a couple of wins on the road already this year. The Irish National Road Race champion is down in Carrick-on-Suir, Tipperary at the moment. Michael Hepburn, Aussie with Mitchelton Scott. Has jerseys in abundance. One of the riders who's been inveigled into wearing his team colours is probably regretting that right now. We've got the towel close to hand. Edvald Boasson-Hagen, another man who's suffering there. The Norwegian rider, 3 times the winner of stages of the Tour de France, beginning in 2011. Edvald Boasson-Hagen, who began the year in pretty good form. He had some good performances in the Étoile de Bessèges. I think he had a second place finish in one of the stages there. Those signs that he had wintered well, but his plans for great efforts on the road coming to naught. Great to see the rainbow stripes. Mads Pedersen, well, you talk about the curse of the rainbow jersey. This is the ultimate curse. He's barely been able to show those off this year, yet to get the win, and somewhat frustrated in his efforts to score that victory. Mads Pedersen of the Trek Segafredo squad, the World Road Race champion, but out on the patio, thrashing away a man from Denmark.
Oh, if you ever were in doubt that Mads is current world champion, there's a jersey, a bike, and a helmet there, and you know, I'd do the same. I'd have bed sheets made if I was world champion.
Oh, you'd never take it off, would you? Yeah. Go to bed that night and get pajamas made in that colour, wouldn't you? Mads Pedersen, I can tell you, he's running 31st at the moment, just over 4 kilometres back. It's been a really tough in out for everyone. He's putting out 5.6, 6.3. It's consistent 5.5 to 6.5 watts per kilo. He's a big unit. This is a course for strong riders, and yet, although he moves up into 30th position, he's still such a way down on what is an imperious performance by Stefan Kung. Up over 39 kilometres now, within the final 6 kilometres of this bike race, and so far, well, the issue's never really been in doubt. If anything, it's starting to go in the right direction. Ghana now 700 metres back as we pick up side of man from Bahrain McLaren, Phil Bauhaus, who's another man suffering out there. The 25-year-old German rider won the Saudi Tour earlier on this year, started the road race season in pretty good form.
We had a heck of a lead-out man in the Saudi Tour.
The great Mark Cavendish, I wonder how he's getting on these days. Is he on his turbo much? Everybody has been encouraged to get as much as is necessary done on the home trainer. I know, chatting to Nicholas Roach, who finished second yesterday, that he's doing about 20 to 22 hours a week on the home trainer, as well as a little bit of cross-training as well. So it's still got to somehow get the motivation to get the volume done.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the platforms like this, and obviously there's a few different online cycling platforms, makes life a lot easier on the head than things used to be if you were subjected to indoor training. Even just having a power meter in front of you compared to, like when I was on the academy, Ben Swift, who yeah, it can be a fragile wee thing. You give him a prod and he'll break a shoulder or something. He did half of his winter training on a turbo trainer. He was doing 4-hour sessions most days, or splitting it up to 2 and 2. And this was before Ruvi. This was before he might have had an SRM, maybe, which wasn't something that we got on the academy. We just had speedos, went off field, but I think because of the amount of time he was spending on there was, yeah, it was admirable. He was doing 20 to 25 hour weeks with without a screen in front of him, and sometimes he wouldn't even be watching films or anything, he'd just be riding. And yeah, in terms of mental toughness, Swifty's up there with the best of him. He's had to come back from a lot of injuries, and he's still, you know, still more than ever an absolute force to be reckoned with. His national champs win last year was phenomenal. I know that because I saw him ride up the road without me.
Well, yeah, mental toughness is the hallmark of all professional road race cyclists, and none less than Stefan Küng, whose advantage has been pared back ever so slightly by that concertina effect as he's open over that final tough drag. He's got a little bit of a ramp up to the finish line within the last 500 meters, but he's looking in very, very strong commanding position now. Philippe Ogana 594 meters back. Michael Matthews is locked in combat for that third position with Greg Van Avermaet. They're swapping positions. There's really never more than a virtual fag paper between them. And Matteo Dalsin has owned fifth place pretty much throughout this race at the moment, albeit he's only got about a 10-meter advantage over Rasmus Tiller of the NT2 Pro Cycling Squad. So the young Norwegian rider coming with a run on the Canadian and bidding for that fifth position. Mickey Scher has made hay throughout the day and is up to seventh position for the Swiss national squad. Well, he's also within touching distance of Rasmus Tiller, so that's an interesting battle, and it could really be joined because not too far between him and Stephen Bassett. Just as I say, Bassett of Rally Cycling moves up and ahead of Mickey Scher, but there's nothing to choose between them. Kamil Gradek is within 10 meters as well. Mitch Docker is about a further 30-40 meters back with a bit of work to do. Another 20 meters or so in arrears is Max Falscheid just outside the top 10. It is incredibly close between third and 10th position. There's only about 20 odd meters between them, but up front Stefan Küng is in a world of his own, a world of hurt you might say, but he's going to be getting the endorphins and the boost of knowing that he is out front and heading to glory.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure who he's got someone with him, so maybe the fan will be going wild at some point between now and the end for him. I'm just excited for this battle for third. I feel like these two guys, Michael Matthews and Greg Van Avermaet, are like, you know, Michael's doing 5.5 watts per kilo, so Greg's like, well, I'm going to do 5.6, and Michael's like, I'm going to do 5.7, and they both blow up a little and drop down to 4.5, and then they keep going back up to sort of 5.5 again, and it's yeah, they could have made life quite a bit easier for themselves today, but they're both stubborn racers. Neither of them willing to give an inch. And also this battle for fifth. I think if Dalsin's not careful, he could, like you were saying before, he could drop down to 9th. And he's had 5th for this whole race. But the nature of these solo efforts, negative splits, it's often won and lost in the final 5 or 10k. It really can come down to the wire.
Yeah, it's about measuring that effort, isn't it? And often it's the wise head who knows exactly what they can get out all the way to the line. Just to clarify, it is 5th to 9th. It's incredibly close. The 3rd and 4th place riders, Van Avermaet and Matthews, there's nothing to choose between them, but they do have about 800 meters indeed on Matteo Dalsin. Dalsin in turn has only got about 100 meters or so on Stephen Bassett, so he needs to work to maintain that position, but it's a solid job being done at the moment as we watch the man out front. Stefan Küng of the Groupama FDJ began his career with the BMC racing team, which is now known as CCC, of course, but he moved across, and it was an interesting move indeed, wasn't it, at the beginning of last season to the Groupama FDJ squad, and he's on the second year of a 2-year deal with them. Multi-stage victories over the years in Tour Romandie, the Tour de Suisse, and of course second on the stage of the Tour de France in 2017. That's an itch to scratch for this rider, who's such a talent, finishing on that occasion second behind the man that won the race, Geraint Thomas, as you might expect in a time trial back in Dusseldorf indeed in 2017. Stefan Kung is run with the very best of them, and he's running to the line now, and he's within the final 150 metres. That has been an imperious performance. He's ready to celebrate. The man from Groupama FDJ shows the colours. We're going to see the arms in the air in a virtual sense. We're going to see them in a real sense too. Stefan Kung gets the win on day 2 of the Digital Swiss 5 and immediately grinds to a halt. It's been an absolutely commanding performance. Groupama FDJ out front throughout the day. Benjamin Thomas leading briefly before handing over to his teammate and the man who would deliver on home soil, Stefan Kung. Well, he's going to be visited now, and hopefully we might hear from him. I suspect he could be giving an interview in German, Swiss German to be precise. But coming up to the line, Filippo Ganna still will continue to ride it up and all the way through, but he can almost coast his way to glory at this point. It's been a superb second place finish from the World Pursuit Champion. Through to the line for Team Ineos, Filippo Ganna has given an effective display of his talents today. Who's going to get this one? This is going to be a gallop between two gallopers, two classic sprinters, both of whom have enjoyed visits to the Tour de Suisse in the past, particularly Michael Matthews, twice a winner of Tour de Suisse stages. Remember him taking a great victory up a little bit of a grindy hill into the national capital of Bern, and it looks like Matthews has saved a bit for this gallop for the line. The final podium position surely going to the Aussie, but he's going to get it. The man from Team Sunweb disappears into the distance, the most we've seen between them. Frustration for Greg Van Avermaet, but it's been a superb effort from the Olympic champion. Matthews third, Greg Van Avermaet in fourth, and look at Michael Matthews slumped over the bars. What an intense effort. And immediately Greg Van Avermaet lifts his body off the bars as well as we wait. The fifth place rider, has Matteo Dalcin saved enough? It looks as if he certainly has. He's surely got enough to in hand over his teammate Stephen Bassett, who's come with a late run. So the Rally Cycling squad are going to place 2 riders in the top 6. An exceptional performance from a Pro-Continental Division 2 outfit. We wait for the arrival of the 5th and 6th place riders. Rasmus Tiller of NTT Pro Cycling is just behind, but by over 100 metres from Stephen Bassett. So I'm sure he's going to get there at this point. Great effort from Matteo Dalcin, the former Canadian road race champion. Just about holds off his teammates, the American Stephen Bassett. That's your 6th rider over the line. And another 50 metres or so further in arrears is Rasmus Tiller, scrapping with Kamil Gradek. But Tiller gets there just in the nick of time. Dalcin gets off his bike to collapse onto the floor, as well he might. Massive effort from him, very impressive indeed. Gradek in 8th position, Mickey Scher across the line in 9th, and the final rider in the top 10 is going to be the Aussie veteran Mitch Docker. Gonna take it home for EF Education first. 3rd place on day 1, courtesy of Jimmy Whelan, and 10th on day 2 for Mitch Docker of EF Education first. Finishing the day just 3 minutes and 21 seconds behind Stefan Kung, who's already in the throes of celebrating his success. Max Falscheid, a big German rider, big German sprinter with NTT Pro Cycling, former stage winner in the Tour de Yorkshire. Now there's the standings at the conclusion of this second day of racing in the Digital Swiss 5. Just got it, albeit briefly. Stefan Kung gets the win ahead of Filippo Ganna by 47.15 seconds. Michael Matthews in 3rd, 1 minute 28 seconds behind Greg Van Avermaet, a further 4 seconds back. Matteo Dalcin just under 2.5 minutes further back as Ganna completes his painful 45-minute tour of the Frauenfeld region here in northern Switzerland. Ludwig Frieson's the first man home for Lotto Soudal. And for Stefan Kung, much to celebrate. Clearly very motivated, Alex, and he gave a good account of himself as well, you might expect.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Stefan's been, I follow Stefan on Strava, and he's been still putting in some big mileage, so still very much kept on top of his fitness during this quarantine period. I think the thing I most enjoy about this is Stefan being Swiss, this being a race in Switzerland, and Stefan being at home. This could not be more of a home victory if we tried. This could be the most homely home victory in cycling history.
He's literally at home.
Yeah.
It was a home win on home soil. He can pad off to the shower now. Put his own towels and his.
Put his pajamas back on because he's at home.
Straight to bed. He's earned that.
Well, I hope someone set up a podium for him at least.
Yeah, maybe a little glass of Swiss wine, and well deserved. His teammate Benjamin Thomas, led early on, is finally home. Quite the sufferfest for him. Thomas home in 23rd position, scrolling down the order. Sylvain Dillier was well up in the early stages, wasn't he? The man who was second in the Paris-Roubaix a couple of years ago. Puts out big watts, but wasn't able to sustain them. Wasn't asked to do it for 260 kilometres today, but still that kind of intensity. Tough to make it last for 45 kilometres. Dillier will be relieved of that. There's confirmations of the standings once more. Stefan Kung with that 47-second win over 45 kilometres. Not a lot, is it? A super effort from Filippo Ganna in second place for Team Ineos. Michael Matthews wins the battle of the classic sprinters from Greg van Avermaet in the battle for third place as well. Matteo Dalsin, Stephen Bassett, Tiller, Scher, Gradek, Docker and the rest. This is the moment that Stefan Kung made it up and across the line. Here's the reaction.
Das war ein harter Effort, man sieht es Ihnen an. Wie haben Sie sich gefühlt unterwegs? War es effektiv so hart?
Home race, home win.
Ja, es war wirklich sehr, sehr hart. 1 Stunde Vollgas. Es war Heimspiel, weil die echte Strecke ist 1 Kilometer Luftlinie von hier weg. Daher musste ich die Ehre verteidigen, aber ja, es hat sicher sehr wehgetan.
Der Heimvorteil, hat er wirklich gespielt?
Ja, ich glaube schon, weil ich meine, ich habe mir hier ein gutes Setup eingerichtet. Hier ist schön kühl, mit Ventilator und alles. Ich habe die Strecke angeguckt, aber das hätte jeder auch machen können, das ist klar. Aber ich glaube, ein bisschen hilft es schon, wenn man auch die echte Strecke kennt, weil dann nur schon an den Bildern an weiß man genau, jetzt geht's hoch, jetzt geht's runter. Und ja, mit dem habe ich schon ein bisschen gespielt.
Wir wissen es, Sie sind nicht so ein Fan der Rolle. Hat sich jetzt das heute geändert?
Nein, also ich kann Ihnen eins sagen, ich wäre viel lieber draußen gefahren. Heute ist wieder ein wunderschöner Tag. Weil für mich findet Radsport nichtsdestotrotz draußen statt, aber es war sehr cool. Oder ich glaube, es ist sehr cool, dass wir etwas bieten können. Und ja, wir haben schon Programme, die so weit sind,
I'm not sure what your Swiss German is like. Mine's not up to much, but I'm given to understand, just getting a little bit of Babelfish translation in my ear at the moment, and I understand that Stefan Kung lives within 1 kilometre of the finish line in Frauenfeld, so it is his home victory, as you can conceivably imagine, as Alex has already said. He said the home advantage did work for him because he knows the course well. He said it was very hard, it was full gas, a home race, and he's of course asked what was your view on the rollers change. No, he'd prefer to ride outside. He's not committed to riding indoors for his full career, but happy to have the opportunity to race, and well, he might, and well, he has done. There's the 16 riders that we had to, or at least 15 of them at any rate, that gave us that bit of entertainment today. They put the cameras in their homes and showed us the intensity of the effort that they were making. Stefan Kung that gets the victory by 47 seconds from Filippo Ganna, the AG Tour Le Mondial, the Gravama FDJ man, getting the victory from the Team Ineos rider. Michael Matthews in third place for Sunweb, fourth for Greg van Avermaet in his private battle with Matthews. Matteo Dalsin wins the rally duo race ahead of Stephen Bassett, Rasmus Tiller, Kamil Gradek, Michael Scher and Mitch Docker rounding out the top 10. That's day 2 completed. Tomorrow we're back up into the mountains, up the Nufenen Pass, over 33.1 kilometres for the third of 5 days of racing here in the Digital Swiss 5. It's been a great day of racing, superb winner courtesy of Stefan Kung. It only remains for me to thank Alex Dowsett and from me, Declan Quigley. That's goodbye for today. We'll be back tomorrow. Please do join us then. Goodbye for now. Cheers. Thank you very much. Thanks,
Yep.